right, we will go ahead and begin this meeting of the Kokomo City Board of Zoning Appeals. I would ask if you have a cell phone, if you just make sure that's on silent. Then I would invite you to join us as we stand and offer the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. It looks like we have a full board this evening. That's a good thing. Appreciate everyone being here this evening. Our first item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from the Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020 meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes of the June 2nd meeting.
Second.
2020.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you. Our first case this evening, case P08V20.
Yes, the petition of Bill McWhorter requesting a variance of 4,060 square feet to section 6.10B accessory structure standards in an AR zone for a total of 5,060 square feet for a property located at 3473 South 150 East.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion on this case?
I'll make a motion we approve case P08-V-20 and adopt the findings of petitioner and the board of those part of the record.
Second that motion.
Okay, thank you. Has any board members had any ex parte communication regarding this case?
None, sir.
Okay, thank you. Would the petitioner or whoever's here to represent this case please step to the microphone? If you give us your name and your address for the record, and then just kind of tell us what it is you're wanting to do before, and then we'll go into your findings of fact.
Okay. Bill McWhorter, 3473 South 150 East. So what I'm wanting to do is build a pole barn to put my antique aerial platform fire truck in to protect it from the elements. That and put some other farm equipment that I have so I can get it all inside so it's nice and tidy.
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Sheeline, the reason this case comes before us is because the large size of this versus what the law allows, yeah?
Correct, and keep in mind, before annexation, that portion was rural residential. And rural residential, you could have 6,000 square foot of accessory structure. So once it got annexed, that changed the number quite a bit. So when you look at it, it looks like a huge number, but if you go back to what the zone originally was, it really isn't. And just so everyone on the board knows, this has been a problem ever since annexation took place. So when we change the ordinance later on this year, my goal is to take a look at this and get those standards back where they should be, where those folks were allowed to have more storage area. And I think we're going to look at it by acreage. So just so the board will know hopefully that's something coming down here in the next few months.
Thank you. All right, Mr. McWhorter, if you'd go ahead and come back up to the microphone. You have a copy of your findings of fact?
I do.
If you'll go ahead and read those into the record.
I will do that. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Building will not have any negative impact on the community. Use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in any substantial adverse manner. Building will allow existing farm equipment to be stored inside to provide for a tidy property appearance. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. Situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. The existing structure is not large enough in both depth and height. The proposed structure will serve as covering from direct ultraviolet and weather elements that would damage the antique aerial platform fire truck.
Okay. Thank you. Why don't we go ahead and have the staff findings? That way we have both sets of findings, and then we will let the board ask any questions that they may have of you, then we'll open the floor in case anyone in the audience wants to be heard regarding your case. And that way you can answer questions, we can find out where we are. Okay, so the staff findings?
Yes, the staff findings for case P08-V-20. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The proposed variance will not negatively affect the welfare of the community. The variance will not create vision impairments or impede on any property lines, right-of-way, or recorded easements. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Granting this variance will not negatively affect the adjoining properties. The building will be aesthetically pleasing, built with high-quality materials by skilled professionals. Granting this variance will permit this structure to serve as a proper storage for farm equipment to provide a clean property appearance. The strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. If the requested variance is not granted, the petitioner will be unable to properly store away farming equipment and housing the antique fire truck from the elements. The existing building does not provide adequate space to store equipment.
Okay, thank you. All right, are there any questions from the board regarding this case?
Mr. McWhorter, I understand you're gonna place this in the back corner of your lot?
And if you'll step to the microphone, so it's all being recorded, so.
That is correct.
Is there gonna be any kind of drive or anything going back to it, or is it just you trying?
There's already an existing drive going to the existing building, so it's just going to be a very short drive, just right to it. It's 15 feet away, so.
Okay.
John, here's a better drawing. I think that shows you a little bit better what you have in your packet.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. The one in the packet wasn't very.
yeah. Okay, I see.
And the existing building will stay?
Yes, it will.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, you wanna look at that? Get it back to Jessica, please. Thank you.
Darren and Tina, do you want to see,
Need to see that.
toss that down their way? Tina,
Do you want to look at that?
you want to see that?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Thank
He
you.
said he was keeping the existing building, and it was just gonna be, right, yeah.
All right, any other questions from the board at this time? Okay, is there anyone in the audience who would like to be heard regarding this case? Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, well, we do have a motion for the approval of case P08V20. The motion for approval and second. It's the adoption of the petitioner's findings of fact as those of the board. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? All right, congratulations. All right, thank you. All right, our next case on the agenda is case P09-V-20.
Yes, the petition of Chris Monroe, Monroe Construction LLC, requesting a variance of, actually, this should read 2,500 square feet to section 6.10 at 4110 South Park Road. And I do want to just mention that this case is a little strange, only because normally we don't do it in this order, because this is a piece of property that's not been subdivided. So for Mr. Monroe to do what he wants to do, he has to get a variance for the building. He has to get a site plan approval. He has to subdivide, and he has to rezone the property. So this is the first step of many. Actually, it should be about the third step, but Mr. Monroe asked us to do it this way simply because if the board doesn't grant his variance, the size of the building that he needs, then he can't do what he wants to do there. So he doesn't want to put all the time and money into those other steps unless he was sure that he could get the variance for the building. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's why we're kind of doing things out of order than what we normally do. And the other part of this is, there again, this is all ifs. If we approve, if you gentlemen and ladies approve this, he will need to rezone, and to rezone, he needs to rezone from agricultural to an office commercial space. And so when we first looked at it, we kind of did the numbers by the agricultural zone, which didn't make sense, because if he rezones it to office commercial and that gets approved, then obviously we have to follow the standards of the office commercial zone. And an office commercial, you're allowed 1,500 square foot for an accessory structure. So actually, instead of 3,000 square foot variance, he's actually asking for 2,500 square foot. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. I know it was advertised at 3,000 square feet, so I'm sure I'm right, but I'll defer to our attorney. As you can do less, you just can't do more, correct? Okay. So we're good with the advertising, so.
Okay. Thank you. Do I have a motion on case P09V20?
I move that we approve case number P09-V-20 and adopt the findings of the petitioner as those of the board and make those findings part of the record.
Second.
All right, thank you all. Have we had any ex parte communication from any board members regarding this case?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, if you'd like to go ahead and give your name and address for the record, and we'll go from there.
I'm Wyatt Johnson, 555 Market Road, Tipton, Indiana, and I'm representing Monroe Construction. I'm a civil engineer and land surveyor. I'm not employed by Monroe Construction. This lot was owned by the UAW, and they had it for sale for a while, and Mr. Monroe has purchased it. It adjoins Liberty Manor subdivision, which lies to the east of this lot, which is about 5 acres in size. What Mr. Monroe would like to do is to put a model home, and which would contain an office in it for his employees. And eventually, he would, maybe 2 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, he would then convert it back to a residence and sell it as a residence. At that point, I think it would probably have to be rezoned again, but he has no idea, of the time frame. And as Mr. Sheline explained, of what's going to happen right now, because if it doesn't get approved tonight, then he'll probably subdivide it into 2 or 3 residential lots and then build on them. So the accessory building is going to be used to house equipment that he owns, such as backhoe, truck, dump truck, stuff like that.
Okay. Thank you. And the property to the north, do you know what that's zoned right off?
My guess is it would be institutional.
Residential, that's our property.
To the north?
To the north, we're just to the 4106.
Okay.
Okay. And then to the south is the park, right? Okay.
To the south is the park, so that would be institutional.
Okay, thank you. All righty. And then, well, I'll ask after a bit. Okay, So do you want to go ahead while you're here and address the findings of fact?
The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because increasing the size of the accessory building is not impactful to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because the building will be sited in a manner where it will not affect the adjacent area in an adverse manner. The strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. The size of the accessory building is relative to the size and use of the existing building. The use of the existing building will be limited if the the use of the main building will be limited if the variance is not granted.
Okay, thank you. And the staff findings for this case?
The staff findings for case P09-V-20. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The proposed variance will not negatively affect the welfare of the community. The variance will not create vision impairments or impede on any property lines, right-of-ways, or recorded easements. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Granting this variance will not adversely affect adjacent properties. The building will be finished and suited in an appeasing fashion. The strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed, nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. If the requested variance is not granted, the petitioner will not have the adequate space needed in order to operate his business effectively. In addition, the parcel for the intended use of the primary building will be limited if the variance is not granted.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any questions from the board at this time for Mr. Johnson or Mr. Sheeline?
Mr. Johnson, what I understand is this property, he's going to be building a office show home, is that, you know?
He'll be building a home that he will occupy as long as he owns it in that regard as an office. But it will also be a model home so he can show potential customers how his product is built.
And this accessory structure will be used to house his construction equipment?
Correct.
So and according to what I understand of the ordinance, it has to kind of model or look similar to the house, or?
Well, that's what we definitely want to happen. We want the, if you're doing a pole barn in the city limits, we always prefer that the building, the facade of the accessory structure matches the facade of the primary structure as much as possible. And we have a pitched roof and things of that, so it looks nice. Especially since this, number one, it's sitting next to a residential area, and it's sitting next to one of our parks.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yes.
What's the footprint of the home?
You mean in square footage?
Yeah, please.
I don't have that off the top of my head, but it's going to be pretty large, like maybe 3,000 square feet. He's going to have a 4-car garage.
Okay.
All right, any other questions from the board for Mr. Johnson or Mr. Sheeline? Okay, anyone in the audience wishing to be heard regarding this case? If you'll step to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Lance Brockman. I live at 3943 East, 300 South. Through a trust, we own the property at 4106 South Park Road. Like I mentioned there just earlier, yeah, it was residential. It is residential. Would like to keep it residential. Don't know. It sounds a little better from what I heard, I was afraid it was just going to be like an office building or something, but it sounds like you're wanting to keep the facade and all that in line with a residential look at the very least.
Correct, correct.
So I understand and accept that. So as long as we can keep it, looking like a residential area, that'd be great.
And just so everyone understands, if we want to make sure that happens, this board does have the ability and the right to put some commitments on buildings of that nature, so we can make sure that it's done to appease the adjoining property owners and the city administration for that matter, since they own the property to the south.
Would that be something we'd have to do now, or with?
That's something we would want to do.
With the accessory structure?
I think, and there again, TJ, I think, it's been a while since we've done those. If I remember correctly, if that's what the board so desires, we would put something together tonight. I think we could, if everyone's agreeable, we could approve it contingent that TJ writes the commitments up, and then the board would have to, we don't have to have another public meeting to vote on it, but the board would have to agree to those commitments as well as the petitioner.
Correct.
And then if everybody agrees, then we're good to go. Did I state that okay?
Yeah, so you come up with the conditions tonight. What are the conditions going to be that are attached to the property? And then we come up with written commitments that would attach to Mr. Monroe and Monroe Construction.
Would we do
And
that?
both parties would execute that
Do that
document.
before we approve this case for this structure, or would we?
Yes. So tonight would be the night to come up with the conditions.
And then I think we could do it one of two ways. We could approve it contingent that everyone agrees to those conditions, or we can continue it for another month. But if everyone's in agreement with it, we can continue it contingent, or not continue it, we can approve it contingent that everyone agrees, the board and the petitioner agrees to the commitments.
Okay, then my question would be, would we have to withdraw the original motion and then propose a new one?
I would assume so, yes, that would be TJ's thought, but I think that's normally how we do it.
Correct.
But I've slept since then, so.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
absolutely.
Unfortunately, I got to pull down late. I'm not worried about the building, how,
You'll
it
have
looks
to
like a
do your
house.
name and
We
address.
need
Oh,
your name and address.
Sorry.
Diana Brockman. My address is 2853 Bridgestone Circle here in Kokomo. And I'm a realtor with the Hardy Group Real Estate Company. So just want to, it's just a little bit of a worry since we do have a residential property next door to it. I'm not worried about the house that could be the office. That is not where I know what he does as far as building. I think it will look very good. This accessory building still haunts me just a little bit. Like how tall? You said 4,000 square feet, and maybe it'll be stone or brick on the outside. But if you're going to put like backhoes and all in it, that's going to have to be a pretty high building, really. So is that going to fit in when he goes ahead and builds his other houses? Is he going to knock that down?
Well, keep in mind, all zoning districts have height limits as to how high that building can be. And before he could build anything, he has to get the property rezoned. Like I said, this is the first of 4 or 5 steps that Mr. Monroe, he has to get the property, after tonight, if this is agreed upon, he still has to get the property rezoned, he has to have the property subdivided, and then he has to go through a site plan to build the house and the building, since it's going to be a commercial building. So there are 3 other public hearings that we would have. But yes, there is, and we've not seen any plans for the building yet, but he would have to fall in within the standards of the height of the building for that zoning
Okay,
district.
and that would be basically the site planning.
Yes, yes,
So the third down the road.
Correct.
Meeting.
correct.
Okay.
And more likely than not, if he wanted a building higher than the law allows.
He'd have to come
he
back
would
for a
have-
variance.
He would have hopefully asked for that
Yeah.
at this
At
meeting
this time.
tonight.
Yeah.
Because if not.
Or at
then
the
he'll have to-
latest,
or he'll have to come back to this
Yeah.
board again. And it
Right.
sounds like he's not wanting to go to meetings he doesn't need to, not
Right.
that anyone wants to, but it sounds like the height shouldn't be an issue in regards to whatever is legally allowed, which we do sometimes get cases here where people say, well, I want a taller one because what I want to put in or whatever, so.
That's the only thing with having residential next door. I would hate for that to hurt my value if I want to fix it up and sell it, and then I've got a big storage barn next to it. I appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I would suggest that if the board is inclined to follow Mr. Sheeline's idea of approving it subject to contingencies, that Mr. Monroe would submit an elevation of the house and an elevation of the accessory building for approval. And then if it's not approved, he could have a chance to make an adjustment. But all that would be hammered out before the actual approval tonight goes into effect.
So would, just for clarification, are you saying you would like us to vote on this with the stipulations that Mr. Sheeline has suggested? Or would you prefer that this board move to continue this case to next month where he could bring?
If the board's comfortable that an agreement can be made outside of the meeting or outside of an official meeting, I would prefer that the approval be granted subject to rather than the case be continued.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to be heard? Okay. And again, if you'll come to the microphone, give us your name and your address for the record.
Name's James Lowry. Live at 5013 Gettysburg Drive, directly behind the lot here. I know we're talking about an increase of 4,000 square foot building, and now what I'm hearing, there's no plan on location or anything available. Why are we at this step of going to a zoning change if you're not ready to propose where
We're
it's
not
going to be at?
zoning, we're not changing the zoning.
No, but you want to do a change to make it bigger, but you don't know where it's going to go. The location on that property will affect us. Visibility is going to affect the value of our homes. I would like to see that. I think we're a step ahead and should wait till next month when something's presented showing us something of a building and the outbuilding before it's decided we could approve the change.
Well, that would be during site plan approval. Whenever they come forward for site plan approval, that's when all that would be brought before the plan commission, not before this board.
Yeah, but right
And
now,
even if this is approved tonight, that doesn't mean every other step's going to be approved.
yeah, but I'm thinking it shouldn't be approved yet tonight. It was what was mentioned slightly before, could be delayed till next month. We have something a little bit more from it.
But we may not have anything next month, because he does not have to give us anything until site plan approval if he doesn't want to. I think the way Mr. Johnson's talking, we can get that. And I just looked up, if I remember correctly, Wyatt, the talk was to rezone this to office commercial property, correct? And the accessory structure height is only 15 feet, so that's the highest the building could be. Just so you'll know, ma'am. Okay.
So when they advance to the office commercial, mean they can put in an apartment building if he changes his mind, correct?
No.
So he can put in just regular office. He can't just do a home. If he has the rezoning to office commercial, he can then put in what he wants. So he can change his mind 10 years down the road.
Well, he can't put in what he wants. There's permitted uses and there's special exception uses
Yeah.
in office commercial. He can't put in just anything.
Okay, what can he put in with office commercial?
An office commercial, he could put, if he wanted to, he could put in a copy center, he could put in a business financial service office, design planning, gift shop,
Yeah.
a bakery, bookstore, drugstore.
So it becomes a
if he wanted
business
to.
instead of this home. So it can be changed. That's what I'm worried about.
Okay.
It becoming a business zone area, not residential or agricultural. So I do have some concern. That's why I don't like the idea of being approved tonight without any more information being provided. When Monroe didn't bother showing up, that also shows me a little inconsiderate as far as the rest of us being affected. We don't have a chance to ask questions to him.
Well, he did send a representative, which is not uncommon in this kind of case.
It is, but we can't ask questions. The representative doesn't know what all was going to happen with Mr. Monroe. So it would have been nice if he'd have showed up. But right now, I'm opposed the way it is unless he shows the site, hey, where's this thing going to be at? Because that's going to affect us drastically.
Well, again, yeah, as Mr.
I know.
Sheeline said, that's.
I know, and like
this
you were saying,
board doesn't-
you're going to grant him the extension without us having any thought of where it's going to be at. And that's a concern to me.
Well, keep in mind, the way the ordinance is written, it can't be, number one, it can't be, I think you're concerned about where it's going to be on the
Yeah.
property, but it can't be in front of the house. The way the ordinance is written, any accessory structure has to be either beside the house or behind the house. So he would
Yeah,
not
he
be
put it
allowed.
behind the house, which affects us. It blocks
I'm
our
sorry?
views. If he puts accessory structure behind that house he's building, that affects our views. So where's it going to be at?
Would it be no different than if you build an accessory structure behind your house and it affect whoever's behind you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but mine's residential. I have more restrictions to it. You're talking 4,000 square feet. You're looking about 40 by 100-foot building. You're not talking a tiny two-stall garage. You're talking a pretty huge structure here. And he wants to make it bigger.
That's correct.
I have concerns in the location. That's why my concern now, I'm addressing it, is if he can't tell us any of that, I'm opposed to it.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to be heard? Or, real fast, Mr. Johnson, did you want to address anything he brought up, or no?
Well, before he spoke, I was thinking that if Mr. Monroe would submit an elevation of the house and an elevation of the outbuilding, that a representative or two of the board and Mr. Sheeline could approve that. After he spoke, I'm thinking it might be better to continue tonight's hearing and let Mr. Monroe submit those kind of documents in the next month, and then everybody can look at them and give their opinion of them. But I think go ahead and continue with
Sure.
the public hearing and any other comments.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, my name is William Gray, and I'm 5009 Gettysburg Drive, and the back of my yard would be on this property. So essentially, any building that they build would more or less be right in the view of my sunset and in my backyard. And I'm next door neighbors with Jim, and I think we're all worried about our property value. One of the reasons those houses are particularly nice is that behind your house, you've got this nice agricultural field that goes to the farm on the other side of Park Road, and it's a very nice setting. And that's why we've been able to have decent property values there. And if you put a building that size, essentially, in our backyard, it's going to completely change the dynamics of the property that we originally invested in. So I would just like to echo what Jim said. I think this is detrimental to the people that are on Gettysburg Drive, that have nice properties that are well taken care of, to have this large pole barn in your backyard.
All right, thank you.
And Mr., I will mention, as I always do, ladies and gentlemen, anytime you have an empty field, whether it's agricultural or whatever it's zoned, and it's empty, there is always the potential that someone's going to come along and want to develop that property. That's just the way it is. So those things do happen.
All right, anyone else in the audience wishing to be heard?
My name is Rupender Sharma. I live in 5017 Gettysburg Drive, and I have the same concern. My property is just behind this property he's talking about. I agree with Mr. Hawley. And I have the same concern they have.
Okay. And where are you in relation to Mr. Lowry and Mr. Gray?
They're my neighbors.
Okay. You're in the middle?
Yeah.
North, south?
I've got a question for basically any of the three. What is on the west property of your land? There's no trees or anything else there?
Yeah, behind my house.
Sorry, will you come up just Again, it's being recorded, so just to make it easier to,
Yes.
So behind my property is kind of like where that little woods is in the very corner. And then behind the other two is the big open field that goes across. So there's a little stand of trees behind my house.
and you're saying the corner, so the corner of the property we're talking about, would it be the southeast corner? Where you're talking about the
The
trees?
southeast corner is over by the Jackson Morrow Park.
Okay.
I would be at the northeast corner.
Northeast corner, okay,
Two gentlemen are in the middle.
okay.
So you're opposing the structure,
Yeah.
the accessory structure,
Yeah,
not the residential office house and the four-car garage, right?
I mean, I don't think the house, if they put the house over by the park, it probably wouldn't affect me that much. But if they put the house right next to your house and the big building was right behind that, I mean, that would definitely be detrimental. I would definitely oppose that.
It'd be detrimental in what way?
In that, right now, all of the sunsets and all the sunshine and all the views and the farms and the property value and all the
Mr.
nice
Sheline
open,
said-
it's just like, here's a great big huge structure.
Mr. Sheline said this comes up every time that they're going to build in a residential area or build residential in a open, what used to be an open field. The people who live behind it don't like it because
true.
they lose, if they didn't want to lose their view, they should have bought the property.
I would, what I would like to see, oh, go ahead, Mike, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, what I would like to see is continuous for the one reason is, why you said something about subdividing later. Well, to me, if we're making a ruling, we're making a ruling on this size of a lot, and if he we're mixing apples and oranges.
It would be subdivided if this board rules against the petition. If the board rules in favor of the petition, he would proceed with the building and the outbuilding, the accessory building.
Oh, so he's only going to subdivide to residential properties if the board does not grant?
Right.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry, I misunderstood what you said.
I
Okay.
probably didn't explain it very well.
No, I get it. So he's not going to subdivide unless he can't do what he wants to do with the commercial property. And if that happens, then he's going to subdivide and put some residential homes there.
Into more than one lot. As you stated earlier, though, just for nomenclature, he's got to subdivide in order to build what we're talking about tonight.
Correct.
But that would be one lot, and if he can't do that, then he's, like I said, he's already purchased the property. So to make silk purse out of a sow's ear, he would subdivide it and sell more than one building lot. And there's a power line that cuts across there with a large easement, and I haven't even investigated how many lots he can get in there, whether he can get 2 or 3 or only 1.
I would suggest, I agree with Mike, I would suggest that with everything that's going on, maybe we can continue the case and Wyatt can get with Mr. Monroe, and we can get some elevations on size and scope of building, where it's going to be put, things of that nature, and then continue this till
Do we need to
Till
withdraw
next
the
month.
seconds?
that would be up to TJ. I'm not sure how that works.
Well, is he going to have to reapply, I suppose?
No, he doesn't have to reapply.
So I don't think we need to withdraw. I think we just need to continue the case.
Yeah,
to
just
get
continue
further
it.
information, take more next time we can reopen.
Yeah.
So just table it for the time being.
I'd withdraw my second on that proposal and motion. You made the motion.
Do we need to do that? or
I don't know
just-
that we need to unless, if you want to, you can, and we can revisit the motion next time.
Okay, well, whichever.
Or do we
I don't
just
think
need
it's-
a motion to
We just need a
continue?
motion to continue.
Dara made the original motion.
I move to continue the investigation into case number P09-V-20.
And I'll second that.
Perfect.
Okay. All those in favor of continuance? I don't know that we need to vote on that, right? So just, I think we're all in favor anyway.
It'll be on
Vote
the
or not.
agenda at next month's meeting.
Okay, so we'll continue that. Did anyone have anything else to add while you're here this evening, in case you're in Florida or something in a month from now?
just so that the people that are here that are concerned understand, we won't be sending a notice out about the next hearing.
Right.
That notice was just made. I will do my best to send an elevation of all that and the site, how things would be situated to the three landowners there to the, well, and the ones to the north.
Okay,
That'd be great.
thank you. All right, and I will throw out there, this is one of those things that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, one of you two who are way, well, all of you are probably smarter than I am, but, you know, Greg, you were saying that the accessory structure can be 15 feet tall, but if the board says, no, we're not going to pass this, and then Mr. Monroe subdivides into, say, two properties, then two families might come in and say, hey, we're each going to build a two-story home, which is now going to be taller than the 15-foot structure, which granted, is probably not, maybe not going to be 4,000 square feet, but still, it's going to block something. So it's one of those things where it's like, oh, wow, what could happen? This board, I mean, we can't speculate. A lot of times people want our board to vote based on a speculation of what's going to happen, and you know, we can't do that because we're trying to keep our attorney out of the courtroom as much as possible. So, all right, anyone have anything else this evening to be brought before the board?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed to that? All right, we're adjourned.